Hello, mystery readers. I'm Alexandra Amore. This is It's a Mystery Podcast, and I'm here today with JLSimpson. How are you, Janet?
Very well, thank you.
Sorry, I had a little brain fart there for a second. Let me introduce you to our listeners. Janet is an English rose who was transported to Australia by a giant nomad, and I'm going to have to ask about that a little bit later. She quickly adopted the accent and culture of her new home. Written under the name JLSimpson, her Daisy Dunlop mystery series is set on the south coast of England where she grew up. Her sense of humor is reflected in her stories, where mystery and mayhem unite. So I was really interested to talk to you about Daisy Dunlop, and there's one thing that really caught my eye. I'll talk about that in a minute. So let's just start by, why don't you tell us about Daisy? I saw one of your reviewers described her as a curvy, strawberry blonde, bombshell force of nature. So tell us a bit about her.
Daisy's a woman who desperately wants to be good at something and fails at everything. So all her different careers she's tried, she's hopeless, absolutely hopeless. She's set fire to chip shops. She worked for a solicitor, dropped coffee in the client's lap. So she's just, everything she does just is a disaster. And she decided she wants to be an heir hunter, which in the UK there's a big TV show called Heir Hunters where the government lists estates, for deceased estates where people haven't left a will. And as an heir hunter you can go and collect the list of those, and you can go and try and find the beneficiaries of the estates, and you get a percentage of the estate as a finder's fee. So she decides after watching TV this is what she's going to do. But her husband, obviously knowing her history, decides that this is a terrible idea, and gets his best friend, who's a private investigator, to take her on to show her the ropes. And that's where the story begins.
Okay, so yeah, you anticipated my question, which was, what exactly is an heir hunter? I had never heard of that before. So it's a real thing.
It is a real thing.
Wow, strange. Okay. The things you don't know. Learn something new every day, right?
Yep.
And so it's her husband that kind of gets her involved in this. Hooks, you said, matches her up with his best friend. And really, does he just wants her to have something to do?
No, the idea is that she goes to work for Solomon, who's the best friend, and Solomon's plot line is that he's supposed to dissuade Daisy from wanting to be an heir hunter or a PI because her husband thinks this is a terrible idea. And she's had some disasters before. When you're chasing around looking for missing people, who knows what could go wrong.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I saw her described somewhere that she can't even cook.
No, she can't cook. She's hopeless. She burns everything.
So what was your inspiration for her?
I don't really know. I like to read books about women that are incapable, but they keep going anyway. So despite the adversity, they never give up. They never believe that they can't do it. And I thought it would be quite funny to write that and to have a sidekick for her that was, I don't know if you remember the TV show Moonlighting back in the day, where I think it was Sybil Shepherd and that movie star whose name escapes me.
Bruce Willis.
That's the one. Yeah. So they're sort of antagonistic relationship. So Solomon takes his job very seriously, and of course Daisy's just the worst thing that could ever happen to him. And I thought it would be funny to have that and set it in England, which has got a very quirky sense of humour anyway. So to combine that English sense of humour with these two characters that really should never be working together, I thought would be quite interesting.
And I noticed you set them where you grew up in the south of England. And what was the choice to do that rather than set them where you are in Australia?
Despite the fact that I've lived there for 30 years, I still have a very English sense of humour and I think writing style. And I actually know the south coast. I've moved around a lot in Australia, so nowhere in Australia is really home for me. I've lived in lots of different places. So I think ultimately for me, the south coast of England is home because that's where I grew up. That's why my family still live there.
Oh,
so
okay.
I go back there on holidays quite a bit. So.
And do you ever have trouble, remembering places that you want to write about, or finding a setting that's appropriate for a scene or anything? Or does it all kind of come back to you?
I've got ideas, but then I have to use the Google.
Okay.
Google Earth is great, looking at street scenes, which is really good.
Yep.
Yeah, and a lot of tourist sites in the UK are really good too, to find out background about places.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, yeah, architecture and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so tell us a bit about Solomon. So he takes his job very seriously. He's a private investigator. What's his background?
He was in the army with Daisy's husband, so they're both military policemen. He's from Northern Ireland, and him and Daisy have got a very interesting past. As you find out in the book, I'll give this away because it's quite funny. Paul was away working overseas, and Solomon was back in the UK, and he was asked to look after Daisy. And Daisy was working in a bar as a barmaid, and got into a brawl. Somehow started a fight in the pub, as you do, with some of the men that were in the pub at the time. And Solomon stepped in to intervene to save her when she says she clearly didn't need to be saved. She was fine. And he completely loses his temper with her and decides the best way to keep her safe from herself is to actually chain her to the kitchen sink. So he handcuffs her to the kitchen sink, which she doesn't take very well. So that's their sort of background, is that whenever he's told to look after her, he takes it way too far. So really, she ideally should rather not work with him because she knows that he's going to mollycoddle her and not let her do anything.
Right, yeah. Oh, it sounds like the perfect setup for humorous stories.
Yeah.
And that kind of tension always really creates a great storyline. You know, you don't want everything to be easy.
No.
It's more fun if it's difficult.
Yeah. I think the other thing is Daisy's a terrible flirt. She thinks the best way to get a man to tell her something is to flirt the information out. And Solomon hates that because Paul's his best mate and he thinks that it's disrespectful that she does this. So she does it with him all the time just to really wind him up.
Right, yeah. And I saw in one of your reviewers mentioned that, or said, move over Stephanie Plum. And so I knew that the books were funny, and obviously they're really tickling readers' funny bones as well. Is that something that comes quite naturally to you? Do you have to work quite hard at it? What's it like for you writing humor in a mystery story?
I've tried. I wanted to write something really serious.
Oh, okay.
I can't do it. I just can't. It's no good. I have to. The humour's just there. It's not hard at all. It's hard to be serious.
Ah, okay. Yes. So it would be a stretch for you to write a quite a serious mystery novel.
Yeah, my husband says, "Why don't you write something serious?" I'm like, "No, it's too hard. Can't do it."
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And so, with getting back to the subject of the heir hunting.
Yep.
I noticed it mentioned in the description for the first book and then for the third book as well. So is this something that has continued despite Solomon's objections to working with Daisy?
Yeah, there's at the end of book one, you find out something that Daisy finds out something that means that she can blackmail Solomon to let her continue working. And so in book two, they're working together, but under duress. He doesn't really want to, but she's got this big secret she's holding against him. And then in book three, it's actually Solomon who decides that life's quite boring without Daisy now, and he quite like her back. So it's quite interesting. Their relationship grows over time. So they start out as adversaries and not liking each other, but as time goes on, they sort of get closer and enjoy their working relationship. There's still that antagonism and being rude to each other all the time, but it's comfortable.
Yes, yeah. And do you have more books in your mind for the future?
I'm actually working on book 4 at the moment, and now I think I was going to do 6 in the series, but we'll see how we go. Because every time I finish a book, everybody says, "Where's the next one?" Oh, okay, another one.
Right.
But I have a story arc for the first 3 books, so the next 3 are sort of concludes at the end of book 3, but then this one sort of starts a new 3-book story arc, which is that the first 3 are really sort of Daisy's story arc. I think the next 3 are going to be more about Solomon.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, very good. And did you find when you wrote the first 3 that you knew what that arc was all the way through from beginning to end for the 3 books, or did it come as you wrote?
I knew that there was one big sort of secret that would be revealed at the end of book 3. So you go through at the end of book 1, you think you found the secret, but it's not the real secret, and at the end of book 2, it sort of leads to what happens in book 3, and then you find out what's really going on. It's with Solomon's secret. You find out what's really going on with Solomon. So, but the actual story, I don't plot. I have an idea at the beginning of the book, and then I just write.
Really? Wow. I'm always so impressed with people who can do that because I'm such a plotter myself. And I was talking to somebody the other day who described it like starting out with a jigsaw puzzle, and she said, you get the straight edges and the corners, and then she just writes scenes, and gradually that fills in the space in the middle. Is that kind of how you work as well?
No, I'm not even that organised. I just have an idea. I just have an idea of a crime, like what the crime is they're going to solve, and then I have got no idea. Normally, I don't even know who did the crime when I start writing. I just start writing, and it sort of just falls into place. I have to go back a bit occasionally and fix bits and say, well, that bit doesn't fit now because I've changed what's happening. I have tried plotting. I did plot a whole book once, and I looked at it and thought, I don't want to write that. I know what's going to happen. It's boring. It's like watching TV for me. It's like you start watching a movie and you've got no idea what's happening. So it's as much a surprise to me when I get to the end as it is to the reader.
Oh, that's lovely. Well, I'm so impressed that when writers can do that. That's amazing. And what are your favorite parts about writing these characters? It's probably the humor, but maybe you can tell us differently.
I love Solomon. He's absolutely fabulous to write. He's got such a dry sense of humour, so sarcastic, and it's just the more you write, the more I kind of reveal about him. The more I get to know him, it's really interesting.
Wow.
So it's really good. His background and stuff. It's really interesting.
Yes, yeah. Now, have you known anybody in the military, or are you Googling that as well?
My husband was in the British Army.
Ah, okay. So you've got the inside scoop.
Yeah, so I say things like, what would I need to do if I want to blow up a car? And he just looks at me funny, like, what? How do you load a gun? What?
Well, that's great to have that source of information right there in the house with you.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And what's your writing schedule like? Do you write every day or every week?
I actually have a full-time job.
Yeah.
So I normally get up at 5:30 and write for an hour, which when it's winter, it's really hard work because it's so cold. And then I sit in my car for an hour at lunchtime and write. So I try and do 2 hours a day. And on weekends, if I can squeeze in a bit more.
Oh, fantastic. Good for you. And so when you're writing, is it on a laptop? Yeah.
On a netbook.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. And, I mean, sitting in the car in the winter must be cold, too. Do you have it running?
Yeah, I have the engine running. In the summer, too, because it gets like 40 degrees.
Right.
So you have to have the air conditioning on.
Of course, yes, yeah, wow.
The people I work with used to wonder where I was going. Like, where are you going? I'm going to sit in my car for an hour. And it took them a few months because I've only been there for a year. And they're like, what do you actually do in your car at lunchtime? I'm writing a novel. And they're like, yeah, sure. And I'm like, no, really, I'm writing a novel.
Oh, that's amazing. And so roughly how long does it take you then to write a book?
But, probably about 7 or 8 months.
Okay. And do you find that you have to cut out some chunks? I mean, you did say that you go back a little bit sometimes and you have to adjust things based on what's happened next. Do you ever find that you go down a side road and you don't end up needing that?
I think the last book I wrote, I had the relationship between Daisy and Solomon was quite different. And a couple of better readers read it and said, no, I don't like the way you've taken the relationship. So I basically went back, and every scene I had to kind of adjust every scene to take the sort of what I was doing with Daisy and Solomon out and change it, which I think works well. I'm glad I did that. And with book 1, I actually took out the whole first 3 chapters. I sort of wrote myself into the book. Yeah. I think I've probably done the same with the one I'm writing now, so I think the first couple of chapters of this one might disappear as well.
Yeah, I think that's probably quite common. I know I do that as well sometimes too. Even though I've plotted it all out and I think the beginning looks great, I'll often end up cutting out a couple of chapters at the beginning and just jumping right into the action or whatever. Yeah. And have you ever considered, would you write another series as well or another set of mystery books?
I'm great at starting books, so I've got lots of half-written books all over the place. I've actually got more of a romantic suspense that I started. I'm about 50,000 words in, which is sort of young. Obviously, Daisy and Solomon. Daisy's in her 30s and Solomon's 40, so they're sort of a bit older. But these people are sort of early 20s. It's set around an English pop band, boy band. Well, I thought it would be quite interesting. And they're on tour in Australia and sort of trying to work out what happens with them. So I'm about 50. I thought that would probably be a series one for each of the members of the band, but we'll see how we go. That might become another one I just stick in the bottom drawer and never finish.
Right. So how did you decide in the end that Daisy was the character you were going to focus on, that you were going to focus on this series specifically?
I think because I kept going with this one to the end. I've actually written other books before. I used to write romance novels. But when I started this one, I really liked the relationship. I actually got to the end and thought, this book actually works. I really like this one. So I thought I'd keep going and try publish it and then try another book and see how we go. And 3 books in, I'm still loving writing it, so I'll keep going.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's great. And just kind of in the behind the scenes of a writer's life stuff, which always intrigues me. What are your favorite parts about writing, and what are your least favorite parts about writing?
Well, I love starting. I love the beginning of writing a book. I love the getting into the beginning part of it, and I absolutely love the last few chapters where I think I'm nearly there. The middle's horrible. I really slog through the middle, and I sort of pick it up in the morning and go, oh, I've got to write. It becomes a bit of a chore. But I just love writing the humour. I actually don't mind editing. I quite like editing. I like reading it through when it's finished and editing it and tidying it up and thinking that all hangs together. That actually works. Mm-hmm. So most writers don't like the editing part, but I quite like it. I think it's easier because you've actually finished the job and now it's just tidying it up.
Yeah, I find the same thing. I actually really like that part of the process as well. And what I found sometimes is that it's almost, even though I've plotted it out, I find the book during that process. And have you found that as well?
Yeah, I always wonder when I get to the end of a book, and because I write it like an hour in the morning, an hour at lunchtime, I tend to go back and read the previous chapter before I start writing to make sure that I'm not going off on a tangent. But because I don't plot, until I've actually finished the book and go back and start editing it, I've got no idea whether it actually hangs together as a book, whether the story works, whether the plot even works. So when I actually read it, I think that's pretty good. That actually works. I like that. That's a really good book.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's good to hear because I feel a bit sometimes the same way. Yeah, and that it's almost like discovering it again for the second time when I go through and read it from beginning to end. So, well, this has been amazing, Janet. It's been so great to talk to you today. Thank you for taking some time out of your Saturday morning to chat with me. And why don't you let our listeners know where they can find your books?
Well, they're on Amazon and the Barnes & Noble website, iBooks, Kobo. So any of the places you normally find ebooks, you can find them.
Great. And your website is JLSimpson.com, is that right?
Yep, that's right.
And we should mention, too, that the first book in the series, Lost Cause, is free.
It's free on Amazon? Yeah, well, it's free everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, so if people want to check that out and give it a try, they can. And then you also have a box set with all 3 books in it. Is that right?
I do, which is a bit cheaper than if you buy them individually.
Exactly, right, great. Okay, so lots of options for people who are interested in trying your work. Well, thank you again so much for talking to me today, and enjoy your Saturday.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.